that the thing you seek for, you are it. You are it. You are the universe. It's important to recognize the moments when you act out of joy versus when we act out of wanting joy. And if you just hold accountability of that, oh, it's not the issue that I'm bothered about. I'm bothered because they're mine. It's me. Immediately the mind moves from the electron space into where? The proton space. It starts to move towards the center. The sorrow is there because we are chasing, we're in the pursuit of happiness. That's why we experience sorrow. Satyam param dhimahi. 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 Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev. Mala, can you start with chapter 254? He's discussing Sthita Pragya.
Arjuna uvacha sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadhi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. Arjuna said, Krishna, what is the definition, mark of a God-realized soul, stable of mind and established in samadhi, perfect tranquility of mind? How does the man of stable mind speak? How does he sit? How does he walk? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogataan atman yevatmana tushtaha sthita prajnastadochyate. Shri Bhagavan said, Arjuna, when one thoroughly casts off all cravings of the mind and is satisfied in the self through the joy of the self, he is then called stable of mind. Dukkeshvanudvignamanaha sukheshu vigataspruhaha vitaragabhaya krodhaha stitadhir muniruchyate. The sage whose mind remains unperturbed amid sorrows, whose thirst for pleasures has altogether disappeared, and who is free from passion, fear, and anger, is called stable of mind. Yes sarvatra visnehaka tat tat prapya shubha shubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratishtita. He who is unattached to everything and meeting with good and evil neither rejoices nor recoils, his mind is stable. Yada samharate chayam kurmunganiva sarvashaha indriyanindriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. When, like a tortoise that draws its limbs from all directions, he withdraws all his senses from the sense objects, his mind becomes steady.
Okay, let's stop here. I read this far because the previous three that Mala read describes what a sthita pragya is. But the verse that she just last read explains how one gets there. Was that clear when you were listening to it? The last one describes how one gets there. And he uses a metaphor of a turtle withdrawing all its limbs. That is how the mind becomes steady. Now, we've discussed this through so many different courses, particularly part 2, silence course. We talk about how when the senses go out, what happens? The mind is not steady. The moment you look at something, whether you want it or not, the mind immediately says, oh, pink. Oh, that's blue. Maybe blue is better because I'm wearing blue. Maybe this is, we should exchange. The mind starts a conversation. It's no longer stable. It's no longer like the previous 3 verses said, meaning it goes towards what I want and what I don't want. It runs after something and it pushes something away. That is what takes us into I want it, pleasure. I don't want it, pain. Correct? So the tortoise example is something we actually practice in our silence course. Pulling the senses inward, back in. That is how the mind becomes steady. Clear? This is a description of what is a sthita pragya, means one established in awareness. One established in the Atman, what was described in Sankhya Yoga in chapter 1 and early parts of chapter 2. What does that look like? So what's basically happened is Bhagavan described an enlightened, what his life would be if he was enlightened, if he was in a steady state. And Arjun didn't get it. So he said, really? I never met anybody like that. Tell me what that looks like, because I don't see anyone like that. Remember, he didn't see Krishna as Bhagavan at the time. He didn't see Lord Krishna as an enlightened. For him, he was a good well-wisher, wise mentor, correct? So he's saying to Bhagavan, oh, you tell me that is the case, someone who's steady, centered, focused, 100% in action and not looking into the fruits. Will I get it? Won't I get it? Is this good? Is this bad? What does that person look like? I never met anyone like that. And so the Lord is describing the qualities. But beyond the qualities is this verse. Again and again and again, we have to withdraw our senses inward. So now you're listening to me, I'm talking. Where are your senses? Is there any part of your sense left with you? Say yes or no. How about you guys? Is there any part left with you? Yes or no? No. You're fully lost on the screen, or you guys are lost in whatever's in front of you. That's where your whole sense of sight is. And all of your consciousness is listening. And there's also some thoughts floating around in the mind, right? There's thoughts floating around in the mind. But you're not, have you lost the awareness that I am sitting right here? I am sitting and I am listening. If you look, you have at some level lost that awareness. Most people actually lose all of that attention. So then the turtle's limbs are out. They are not inward at all. Are you following what I'm saying to you? You're listening. There's no awareness inside, but now start to listen to me as I'm speaking. You're looking at your screen. You're all watching me. You're listening to me. And while you're doing that, can you take some portion of your attention back into yourself? Maybe you're aware of the belly. Maybe you're aware of your breath. Maybe you're aware of the floor, how it feels against your ankles. If it's tough, if it's soft. Do you see what I'm saying to you? So keep listening to me, keep watching me, but bring some of your limbs back inward. Means pull back your senses towards yourself rather than getting lost in what is being said and what you are seeing and what you are smelling. You can smell the incense clearly, correct? You're not fully conscious of the incense because that sense is less engaged. Are you all following me? Maybe you don't have incense there, but right? They're all your senses, the light. Like for me, there's a bright light in front of me. I'm aware of it. I'm watching you. I'm speaking. I'm also aware of the verses that followed, and I was sort of processing. Simultaneously, some portion of my mind was also trying to figure out the video. You know, does Pramod have different series of videos than I have, because we had the same chapter and part, but what happened? So some part of it was still there. And when it's there, then the turtle's limb is completely out, meaning it's in the past, something that does not exist. That is the opposite of a sthita pragya, one who is centered. And what did Guruji say in the earlier video, as he was recapping the entire chapter 2? When the mind is focused, when you are in your center, when the intellect is sharp and the body is in action, then what happens? What you want follows. He actually called it a siddhi. Even before you decide what you want, the results are in front of you. Did you catch that and connect the dots when Mala was singing? So this is actually what we're talking about. Some of you may have missed it. The previous conversation, the verses were about you have the right to act, but not to the fruit. And so often the question comes up around free will and destiny. You have free will in action, but not in the results that you will get from your action. And the less you're focused on the result, the more free will you have. And we think completely the other way around. We try to figure out the results first before we take any kind of action, any kind of investment in business, any kind of hand stretch towards connecting, sharing. Anything we do, we want to figure out the results first. So in these few verses, if you listen, he has said one who is craving, one who is running after results, one who gets angry is not of steady mind by default. Who is of steady mind? Pain and pleasure, anger, regret, all these things are not in that state of mind. Listen, have we ever really stopped to think about it? The more we focus on the results, the more the mind gets either into pain or pleasure or fear or anger or frustration. But when you're really busy, just acting, getting what you need to do done, just going for it, your mind doesn't wander into fear or worry or anger or anxiety as much. Yes or no? It doesn't do that. That's how you get closer and closer to 100%. In so many ways, these verses, these last several verses, the last session and the one before, including this one, if you really listen to it, it frees you up to act. It makes you a greater, bigger risk taker. It's a way to empower us in life and to know that there's a power behind me that's driving me greater than me, myself, and I. Is this clear? Really, it's not theory. For me, these are profound verses that we've been discussing the last 10 or so. Yes? I'm going to read you a couple of the ones that Mala read already again. Listen to this. 54. It's also written in Sanskrit, and I don't understand the numbers. All right, here we go. Bhagwan said, Arjun, when one thoroughly casts off all cravings of the mind, I want it, I like it, this should be, running after something. When one has thoroughly cast off all cravings of the mind and is satisfied in the self through the joy of the self, he is then called stable of mind. Maybe satisfied is not a good word here, perhaps content. That makes perhaps more sense to us. Meaning, acting not to gain joy, but because you're joyful, you act. What comes first? The joy. That is what that verse is saying. When you're happy, when you're joyful and you act, you are a sthita pragya. We may not be established in this, but we are living the self. Guys, this is something really very, very important for us to understand. We have this notion that one day I'll be enlightened. Yes? Right now we're ignorant, and one day I'll be enlightened. But it doesn't work like that. Enlightenment is a journey. Every time you have been very happy, like when you're planning a wedding at home or a birthday party or a graduation for your children, you're very happy. And your actions of organizing the party and doing all the things comes out of joy. The joy came first. At that time, you are a karma yogi. In those moments, we're in that state of what we could call enlightened, aware, awakened. But then there are many times we take action, we do something because we hope when we do it, then I will be happy. This is akarma yoga. This is not where the intellect is steady and focused. This is not when we're not caught up in the results. This, in fact, is the complete opposite. So he is saying, whenever you act out of joy, for the sake of acting, you're so happy you do whatever it is you do, then you are of stable mind. And we have experienced this, true or false? You're happy. Someone says, oh my God, no, I'm just so happy. I'm just going for it. Yes or no? Like when you dance, for instance, you just dance, right? You love to dance. You're happy to do it. Maybe in the beginning, there's some nervousness because there's an audience or something, but then the music comes in and then you just go for it, right? Are you with me? It's important to recognize the moments when you act out of joy versus when we act out of wanting joy. That establishes us into something. The next verse says, the sage whose mind remains unperturbed amid sorrow, whose thirst for pleasure has altogether disappeared, and who is free from passion, fear, and anger, is called stable of mind. When I first heard it, when Mala was reading it, I was like, okay, yeah, who has this? No, the response in my mind was, really, whose mind remains unperturbed amidst sorrow. Do you think it's possible to have the word sorrow in itself implies to me perturbed, disturbed, yes or no? So when you were listening to Mala, didn't your mind go, come on? Now what? How is this going to happen? And then you read a little bit further and he says, whose thirst for pleasure has altogether disappeared. Listen, sorrow comes because we thirst for pleasure. I mean, that sentence can't be more brilliant in describing what we're discussing here, meaning the sorrow is there because we are chasing, we're in the pursuit of happiness. That's why we experience sorrow. But if you act out of joy, then you're no longer pursuing happiness. And that is how the sorrow doesn't disturb you. It doesn't even come to you. It is not that you will let go of anger. That is not what this verse is saying. It is not that when you let go of anger and when you let go of, what were the other things? Passion, fear, and anger. Bhagwan is not saying when you, one, let go of fear or passion or anger, then you are of stable mind. That's not it. It's when it doesn't exist. They're miles apart, these two things. When within the nervous system, anger, fear, and passion does not exist. If you take Gurudev as an example, his system doesn't have these three qualities. Have you seen when he's trying to make an emphatic point where some strength and then this sort of, quote, anger is supposed to be shown in an example? It falls completely flat because there's this kind of soft-spoken person who then says, and then, then the man, he got out of the car and he said, why are you doing this? Isn't it? The nervous system doesn't have this quality in him. So it is not that he let go of it. It's that he sees that self itself is joy. When you are happy, it is not the object that's making you happy. The joy is within you. When that is established, one is of stable mind. Is this clear? Do you guys understand this? You will see many times he's trying to make like an emphatic point, and it's like even he can't, even his hand doesn't have rah in it. Yes or no? He like, and then it just falls flat because there's none of that in the nervous system. The mind is steady, stable. It was never there. It doesn't arise because whether it's WCF or 5 million people in a course or 500,000 people at a satsang, he doesn't say, now I am happy. You saw WCF, such a huge thing, 8 months of work at least, right? How many people, how much resources, how much time, how much energy. We did WCF. It ended Sunday afternoon, right? And then we all basically ran to the wisdom series. And when we got to the wisdom series, it was like as if he had just gone out for a slice of pizza, right? He went and he was back and, satsang, what are we doing? We were back to La La Land. There was no like, I got so happy. I'm so happy we did WCF and it was great. And I'm so happy so-and-so came and so-and-so didn't come and he shouldn't have. None of it. How are we? Wow, that was amazing. Or that wasn't amazing. And why did we do this? And they should have done everything. Not centered, not stable state of mind. Clear? Yes? 1 second. Let me read you the next one. He who is unattached to everything and meeting with good and evil neither rejoices nor recoils is a stable mind. Not for pleasure, not for pain. I don't want it. I should have it. This is good. This is... The mind will never come to an end. And just like Gurudev said in the earlier video, as he's pulling all of chapter 2 together, when the mind and the heart are not aligned, then what happens? One is all over the place. That's what he does, that wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. Have you seen? Means rattled in the mind, not stable, all over the place. I don't know what to do. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I shouldn't do that. I have to talk to Guruji. I talked to Guruji, but it didn't make any sense to me. That whole wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. Correct? Stable mind. I mean, Arjuna is asking for an example. We have one in front of us. We have been around one 101 times to recognize, oh, this is possible. And like me, perhaps you also do that, which is like, yes, it's possible for him, but this is too much and not possible for us. Though he keeps saying it's possible in a moment. And even if we don't have that strength, even we don't have that confidence, we certainly know moments where we have acted out of being happy to begin with. And then you have boundless amount of energy. You don't get caught up in something. You don't get caught up in people. He said, she said, nothing like that. Even your worst enemy, if you see them, hi, maybe afterwards you look back and say, what did I do that for? I don't even like that person. Right? Isn't that what we do after the fact? We're like, oh my God. And if there's someone next to us who's not so happy, they point to us and say, I didn't know you guys were friends again. No, it's all fine. This is amazing. And then you keep going. So my point here is, don't get disheartened when you hear this because it seems so far away, so untouchable, because we do have these experiences from time to time. We do feel very steady. We do sometimes go to work and we just, however the day is or isn't, you're not bothered. You're not looking at it. You're not anticipating the worst or the best. You just go, right? Someone says, what do you do? I'm just driving. How many times have you said that? You drive a lot, do you not? But you don't always say, I'm just driving. When someone says, what are you doing while you're driving? Depending on if you're caught up on one side or the other, then say, oh, I'm just fed up. I'm thinking about, I got to get to work and my kids and my wife and my whatever. Correct? Yes or no? 'Cause don't think that you always say, I'm just driving. I'm just sitting. How many times do you just sit on your sofa? And if somebody calls, sometimes you're just sitting, but many other times you're not just sitting. You say, I'm just waiting for the day to end. I really don't know what to do. She's supposed to come and she hasn't arrived. Yes? Yeah. You have to reflect on this, because then we can see that, oh, when I have lived those moments, I am the self, the higher self. I cannot see myself as separate because I am the subject that is so close to the center that it illuminates the qualities of the center in action, in thought, in gaze, in look, in feeling. It all aligns itself, like Gurudev said. Are you with me? Yes?
Yeah.
Oh man, I have one person who's not smiling even. Are you all with me? It's amazing to recognize that, oh, I think,
Yes, Didi, we
look,
are.
look, somebody even recognized your voice here. Look, it's a really amazing thing to come to recognize that, oh, you know, I don't have to search for the self. I am it. In the moments that I have lived those things, I am not just close to the center, I am the center. Wow, I'm that close. I'm less than a whisper away from my highest, best self. Just take that idea in for a second. You only need to whisper to yourself, my essence, it's okay. I can do anything. Everything else is people's ideas and opinions. Don't you think so, girls? Yes? Your internal, I have two young 16-year-old students now. I'm gathering students. The adults were not working out. So the adults were like, get us out of here. She's too much. They like me. Really just think that the thing you seek for, you are it. You are it. You are the universe. It just, now understand this statement, it just gets covered. Covered with, I like it, I don't like it, I should be, I don't want it, he, she, it, wow, 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 me and mine covers the self, adds a layer. Then we are not of stable mind. But how many moments you are the force of divine living? Maybe a little far away, not perfectly in the center, but how often are we so close? We just finished the advanced course. I'm sure you've all heard that talk where he talks about we are so much like an atom. The center is a nucleus and a proton, and it's the periphery that's the electron, the negative charge. And the more centered we are, the more we live the qualities of a proton, positivity, joy, fun, enthusiasm, lighthearted, freedom, connected, jovial, can drop something that comes and goes, not holding on to it. This is a sign we're spinning in or around our center of self, that which we seek. Are you with me? And when we're complaining, seeing difficulties and challenges, when we see other and me, this is mine and they're not, then where are we? Spinning in the periphery, in the negative charge. So if you see your mind complaining, nagging, comparing, competing, whatever, then where are you? You've gone away from the center. And so what do we have to do? Like the turtle, pull the limbs back in. Withdraw your senses for a little while. Stop looking out. For a little while, stop saying, let me listen to this or that. Let me just look at myself. And when you close your eyes, then you start to feel whatever is there and you allow it. When the thoughts come that flood you, because remember, you are in the electron space, the negative charge space. Are you still with me, you guys? So when you close your eyes, what's going to spin? Happy thoughts? No, it's going to spin the thoughts that are around the electron, negative. Why she did that? Why he did that? I don't understand. I don't want to do this. Oh my God, maybe I should move. No, I don't want to move. I think that when they're sleeping, I'll just strangle them. Those thoughts come. And instead of realizing, oh, it's just that I've put awareness onto the periphery, you start saying, I'm no good. I have bad thoughts. I have angry thoughts. I have unpleasant thoughts. No, 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 no. You are not that. You are the proton. It's just that because you got into me and mine, you had a veil over the center. Is this clear? This is not something someday thing. It's a right now thing. Correct? It's a here and now experience. When you're really free, you're right there. And when you see the thoughts, the emotions, the mumbo jumbo about, poor me, poor them. No, that's just a veil somewhere underneath, like Arjun. Where are we? Me and mine and other. And if you just hold accountability of that, oh, it's not the issue that I'm bothered about. I'm bothered because they're mine. It's me. Immediately the mind moves from the electron space into where? The proton space. It starts to move towards the center. And then you get a moment of, oh, okay, you know what? That's funny. I was just upset, not because I was upset about the thing. It's just because he's my husband and he didn't come home on time. If he doesn't come home on time, I don't care. I don't care. He's somebody else's husband. And I let him go to the gas station and do whatever he's going to do. Do you see? Do you understand? I'm not saying that doesn't mean you don't love and care and connect. It's just a recognition that I think I'm bothered about the topic. Like Arjun thinks he's bothered about violence and killing, and I don't want to do that. But what is he really bothered about? Me and mine. I don't want to kill my uncle and my guru. That's what he's really bothered about. It's not the subject matter. Correct? Then you realize that you move out of the negative electron space and come into the center. And you say, oh, okay. And then maybe you take a few deep breaths. Otherwise, 35 years later, I'm breathing and nothing's happening. Well, you're alive. Some little thing is happening. Okay. And I think there was one more. He who is unattached to everything and meeting with good and evil neither rejoices nor recoils, his mind is stable. Again, we're back. When you operate from your center, you neither get elated nor do you crash. When you're in your center, you're just joyful, but not, oh my God, this happened. Oh my God, this didn't happen. Oh, that's great. But it's this sort of equanimous state that we spoke about earlier in perhaps 2 sessions ago. Yeah. Again and again, sometimes you have to go back to the sessions that seemed too dense. You know, we're just covering things, going verse by verse. But when you have the time, if you're driving or whatever, just go back and replay it. Whatever you catch, great. Whatever you don't catch, great, even while you're busy. All right? And then we come to where we ended, which was when like a tortoise that draws in its limbs from all directions, when he withdraws all his senses from the sense object, his mind becomes steady. As long as your eyes are seeing the object, It's natural and easy to say, nice apple, not such a nice apple. I don't like apples. My sister likes apples more. I prefer plums. Yes? Indian mangoes are better. Mexican mangoes, they're not so good. Oh, shut up. Yes or no? So you have to, just like what I told you earlier, as you're looking at me, as you're listening to me, as you're even looking at the apple in my hand and me tossing it around, right? Even I'm talking, I'm tossing it, I'm looking at you. You see me looking at you. I'm aware of how short my breath is getting and that I need to take a long breath in. Pull a little bit of your awareness inward. That is what is meant by the tortoise pulling the limbs inward. And how stable is a tortoise? When the limbs are in, how stable is a turtle? Tortoise? Very stable. When the turtle pulls all its limbs in, you can try to rattle it and it will not move. Stable of mind. Are you with me? So don't eat the apple. You know what happened in the garden. Don't eat the apple, God said. Okay, we will stop here. We have 15 minutes for questions. Any questions? You guys also can ask or anything here. Vera, I count on you. Thank you.
Yes. How do you handle sorrow? You feel sadness. I just recently lost a niece to cancer. So I tried not to get, but there is this deep sorrow, and how do you handle it?
You have to feel it. When you feel it, you cannot deny it. Trying to avoid an unpleasant experience, emotion, only does what? What you resist, persist. You just prolongate the cycle. So you have to give yourself permission to feel what you feel. And it's not that Krishna Bhagavan is saying to Arjun, oh, kill them and you won't feel anything. That's not what's being said. That is not the knowledge, right? When you feel the sorrow, feel it. Don't avoid it. Don't make a mood about it. Don't throw some concepts in your head. And at the same time, don't indulge. Sometimes you have to widen your lens. You hear sometimes someone say, how can God is unfair. Look what he did. So-and-so died, and it becomes a problem. God is unjust, unfair, a monster sitting somewhere in seventh heaven. But then if you ask them, well, you don't say anything when he gives birth, and you don't say anything when the neighbor someone dies. It's only when it's mine. You're going to feel it. It's correct. It's feel what is there. Don't avoid. Yeah. Any other question? Anybody here? Yeah.
Question.
1 second.
So, in the real life world, how do you strive to be desireless? Like you were just saying, do the action.
I'm going to tell you the question. Hold on. In the real life world, what have I been talking about? Is there anything more real life than a war? Battlefield? I mean, they're not sitting in some chariot somewhere, right? So in a real life world, how do you handle desires? Was that your question?
How you become desire free?
How do you become desire free? Never did Arjuna or Gurudev or Krishna say that. Desires come. Oh, desires are there. Acknowledge them, recognize them. What we think is every desire that comes, I need it, I want it, it will make me good, it will make me better, I somehow will feel happier. So we start chasing after every desire. Is this clear? He said, Gurudev even said, so desires come, let them come. We're not trying to get desires out of the system. And if you have a human body, it means you had desires. That's why we have a human body, right? Yes, I mean, sometimes we have desires that are not really the best, but then you discern and say, I better not do that. I'm sure there are days where you think the person sleeping next to you should really have a pillow on their head. No, like, oh my God, they're driving me crazy. You want to leave the room, let alone the house and the country. Yes? Say yes. But you know that it's just a momentary thing. You're tired, you're stressed, you had a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, whatever it might be. And we discern and do not act upon them. Similarly, there are many such desires. Every desire is not to be fulfilled. It is not you, and it will not make you a bigger, better person. Think about how many desires you had. You had them. Before you came, you were in college. I can't wait till I finish college, and I really want a job. Did you get the job? That desire got fulfilled? Now, don't you wish you didn't have a job? Meaning you had the money, but no job. Yes? Then you say, I just want to go to America and see, and it's amazing, and everybody, America, America, America. And then I miss home. I miss my mom. I miss my brother. I miss my dad. Yes or no? Desires bring comfort. They do not make you a better, happier person. That already were the verses that we discussed before, like 47, 49, all those verses. They do not make you a better, bigger person, but we think it does, so we get very full of ourselves, ego. Correct? But they don't do that. They bring you comfort. No? Okay. 5 more minutes, maybe 10 more minutes. Yes.
So what I understood was that you're supposed to find like joy in the action rather than in the result or like the desire for result. But if so many of the things we are doing is like for the result, like how do we find happiness in that?
So I'm very proud to say my 16-year-old student. Finally, someone's listening. I can die in peace. I had a worthy student, you know. Could you all hear the question?
No, can you repeat?
Yeah. So the question is, you say it in your words. Say it again, one more time.
So what I understood was that you're supposed to find the joy in the action.
Find joy. I understood that we're supposed to find joy in the action.
Yeah, rather than the result.
Rather than the results.
But if we tend to do everything for the result.
We tend to do everything for the results, however.
How can we find the happiness in the action?
How do we find the happiness in the action? Have you heard people use this expression, enjoy the journey or enjoy the ride? Have you not heard that? That's what's being said here. We forget to focus in on the journey. We get locked into the result. And when we do that, we not only invite lesser results, but we struggle. Then we lose the joy of the result and the joy of the journey, right? So you're going to go on vacation. If the whole time is, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Then, right? Then you don't enjoy perhaps the slice of pizza that came along the way, or maybe Cold Stone ice cream that came along the way, or some, rabbits that were going by and the deer. Like today we had ducks, geese. We really waited there like a good 4 or 5 minutes, while they were crossing, and little baby ones and mom and dad. There's something beautiful, but are we there yet? Why are we stopped on the road? There are geese. Oh, come on, go around. Finished. And people do that. That's why it's so funny. Yes or no? Yeah. So enjoy the ride, and the results will naturally follow. And if the results are not what you want them to be, because you enjoyed the ride, you'll be able to get back on the horse and do it again. Otherwise, if you didn't enjoy the journey and the results were not what you wanted, it becomes very hard to shake it off and do it again. Do you understand this? That's the thing, you know? Any questions there? Any? Yes.
Sometimes the desires are in our awareness and sometimes they are not in our awareness. So how to deal with those desires which are not in our awareness?
Well, if they're not in your awareness, sometimes desires are in our awareness, sometimes desires are not in our awareness. How to deal with desires that are not in our awareness? That's like saying, how do I deal with the thief that I don't know is coming to my house? They're not in your awareness. What can you do? But the moment you say, I want, and you're doing things, it's true. Certain things are autopilot, unconscious. But when you start to get frustrated, when you start to feel impatience, when you start to see dejection, then you have to stop and say, what am I running after? And then it'll be right in front of you. Alex, I think you had a question, but you disappeared.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I see. Go.
Okay. So when you were saying about the sorrow or any strong emotion that you're experiencing and you feel it, what is the journey from when you're feeling it to coming to the center, the proton, the positivity? Because at that moment you're so, it's very rattling, right? Like to feel.
But you have to go through it, meaning feel it. What generally happens, you feel sad. Let's say me and my student, we'll never do it, but let's say we fought, some unpleasant interaction took place between people. You're going to feel it if that's what happened to you. You're not able to shake it off in the moment and say, okay, she must have had a bad day. Let me move on. You personalize it. Then what happens? You pull it together as if it's not feeling it to you or for you. Do you not do that? Do we not do that? We pretend instead of being with it. It's not about making a declaration to the world, I'm very sad, but to recognize you feel sad. Something feels punched in. Something in the gut feels hurt, painful. Somehow you feel little contracted and tight, and you kind of feel alone. Even though you have family around, some part of you feels like no one understands. You have to be with it. You have to know that those are temporary experiences that will pass. But before it passes, don't try to tuck it away in the corner. The moment you do that, you leave the electron space, the negative charge space, and move towards the proton space. Is it clear? This is what hollow and empty is. If you again and again go to the silence courses, at some point when negative things, impatient things, frustrating things, sad things happen, you have a very clear sense this will pass, and you sit with it and you feel it. And if someone asks, it's like this close, yes? But you don't fake it. You say, how are you feeling? It's a lot going on. That would be enough. And a tear will drop, but then that would mean our ego won't like it because somebody now sees that we're not so good. Yes? So you're going to fake it.
And sometimes it's very intense, like especially with fear, or it's just so unbearable and you want to run away from it. Yeah.
But way out of fear is through action. Certain things are fixed. If you're experiencing fear, you have to go do it anyway. You will not solve it in your head. That is what we do in fear. We try to figure it out, fix it, solve it in our head first. It's not possible. It will only increase the fear. The only way out of fear is to go do it anyway. By feeling fear, do it anyway. I'm afraid, it's disgusting. Well, eat it anyway. Do you understand? I mean, like, don't you see when you feed babies, they clearly tell you. Correct? It's very clear, it's very noticeable, but then mom goes, "Oh, here comes an airplane." Duck, gone. And they look very confused. Right? If you look at them, they look terribly confused. Like, what the hell? Did I eat it? Didn't I? Was it good? What? Huh? You liked it, beta? No, but I'm not sure. You see? All right. No questions on my screen. Last question out here?
Yeah.
Yes, last question.
Yeah, you give an example of at times we are self-centered. So how do we increase that self-centeredness?
At times we are capital S self-centered.
Mhm.
How to increase capital S self-centered. But you have all the tricks and trades that we've discussed right through Gurudev so many times. Your sadhana does that, your seva does that, sangha does that. The points, allowing yourself to at some level or another bring awareness. Anyway, this is temporary. These two things are very big. This will change. That whole process that we do, it's going to change or it'll never change. That'll also start you to move. Oh my God, it'll never change. Something else happens. If you really got that it'll never change, you suddenly become like ready to go for it. You really become ready to go for it. Or it's going to change. I don't know how long it's going to take. Yeah, but it will change. So knowledge, wisdom, practices, meditation, chanting, yoga, seva, all these, a little bit of fasting, all these things move us out of the electron space and more towards the center space. Good? Everybody good? All right, let's sing the ending. Eyes closed. Satyam param dhimahi. Satyam param dhimahi. Satyam param dhimahi. Param dhimahi. Satyam param dhimahi. Jai Gurudev.